Hi, my name is Dave Johansson, and I'm the co-owner of Blossom Hill Crafts Pottery School in Los Gatos, California. Today I'm going to be doing a demonstration on glazing a pot with a spray gun, spraying glazes. So first I want to say a word or two about why you might spray glazes. Here's a little pot that I made, a little teapot, and this pot has this nice curve in here. And spraying glazes allowed me to get the glaze on the pot in a way that gets the glaze to fit the form without dipping lines or waxing or any kind of craziness like that. So the first glaze that's on this pot is what I call a base glaze. And what I'm about to say about glaze application I owe to Stephen Hill. These are really his ideas. The base glaze covers 80% of the pot. I've got it on this pot, everything but right here. And the base glaze is stony matte. So I sprayed the whole pot with stony matte. Then I have what's called a modifying glaze. And the modifying glaze is exactly what it says. It modifies the base glaze. And the modifying glaze on this pot is stony matte blue. So if you look at the pot like this, you can see that the stony matte blue is here, here, and here. And then there's overspray of stony matte blue in here. So I accomplished that by holding the pot like this and spraying the glaze down like this. So the stony matte blue hit here, here, and here, but I get overspray in this area right here. I also held the pot like this and sprayed the stony matte blue like this, and I got the same effect. So base glaze and then a modifying glaze. Now this pot has a second modifying glaze, and that's watercolor blue, and that glaze is right in here, and it's very faint. It's not thick at all. If the base glaze covers 80% of the pot, I can't put any of the modifying glazes on nearly as thick as the base glaze. So my second modifying glaze, which is watercolor blue, is sprayed in here this way, and in here this way. Then I have what I call an accent glaze, and in this case, that's Hannah's Fake Ash Green, and that's sprayed right in here. And then I backed the gun up and got a lot of overspray of the Hannah's Fake Green Ash right in here. So Hannah's Fake Green Ash and overspray. I have also come across the top of the handle, across the lip of the pot, and across the lip of the spout with super black. And that super black is isolated. That's another thing you can do. You can blend a glaze and you can isolate a glaze. So right there with the super black. And when I'm blending these glazes in here, I'm not ending up with dipping lines. So that's why I spray glazes. And again, that I really owe what I've said there to Stephen Hill. So now let's talk about equipment. We provide the compressor and the spray booth. But you are going to need to buy yourself a spray gun, and this is the spray gun that I recommend you get. It's a gravity feed spray gun. We do sell these in the studio, or you can buy them someplace else. Look online. Sometimes you can find them for very cheap, just a few dollars. This is an auto spray kind of spray gun, gravity feed. That's what I recommend you get. There's a button on this, a little knob on this side of it right here. That adjusts the shape of the spray that comes out at the front of the gun, and you want to adjust that so that the shape that comes out of here is round, not a straight line, but nice and round. This right here controls the amount of air released, or how fast. It basically controls how sensitive the trigger is when you pull the trigger. That's this back little knob right here, and there's a knob on the bottom down here too, and that knob is it controls air pressure, and you just want to leave that all the way open. We have our compressor set at 35 psi's, and you just want to leave it there, and you don't want to mess with this. That's the perfect place for this spray gun, spraying the glazes at the thickness that we have them. So that is your spray gun. You're also going to need a mask. We do supply these. You want to make sure that your mask says N95 on it. Sometimes somebody will bring in masks from their garage or something, and they've got them laying around the house, and they bring them into the studio, and they're the wrong ones. So just check and make sure the mask says N95. So that's your equipment. I'm not going to turn the spray booth on while I'm spraying today because it's too loud, but ordinarily the spray booth would be on. It's just a light switch on the wall that turns it on. It does a great job of pulling the spray away from you, but you still want to wear a mask. So I'm gonna, well, the first thing you need to do is decide what glazes are gonna go on your pot. So here's the pot I'm gonna glaze today. The base glaze on this pot is gonna be butter. The modifying glaze is gonna be a glaze called SC Orange. That glaze is in our studio. It's in the spraying section. It's in a small bucket. It's for spraying only. SC Orange is the modifying glaze. The accent glaze, which will be mostly in here, is going to be Hannah's Fake Ash Green. And on the rim, I will do Super Black. Now, the inside of these pots, the liner glaze, what goes on the inside, I always pour. And in this case, my liner glaze is going to be butter, and I have already poured that butter before I spray. So, once I know what my glazes are, I'm going to get all of them in these little measuring cups and put a piece of tape on the side and write what the glaze is. So this cup, I filled up with butter. I have one of these filled up with SC Orange, one of these filled up with Super Black, and one of them filled up with Hannah's Fake Ash Green. So the very next thing I need to do is take my spray gun, take the lid off the hopper, and I've already done this, and pour the butter into the hopper so I'm ready to go. And like I said, I've already done that. So my gun should be about 6 inches from the pot, about that far. And I'm going to get my base glaze is going to be 80% of my total coverage, right? I'm going to cover everything but in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my my gun about 6 inches away, and I'm going to pull the trigger, and I'm just going to start moving the gun slowly back and forth. Just like that. And I'm going to just keep going up with the gun, just continuing to spray. Notice how I'm just moving the gun lightly back and forth. And we're just going to go up and keep going up. Now, how do I know how thick I'm going? I'm going to go until I start seeing the pot looking really wet. So we're going to just keep going around. I want to see the pot looking really, 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 really wet. And I'm not there yet. When I get to that foot, I'm kind of backing up, and I'm going to let it get a little bit thinner down at that foot, which will make the foot kind of fade away. And I'm starting to see the glaze looking wet on the outside of the pot, which tells me that I'm there. I'm just going to keep going all the way to the top of the pot like this. And there we go. Now, I haven't sprayed in there, but I've got a little overspray. I'm real happy with that. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a needle tool, and I'm going to scratch the glaze. And the glaze should be about the thickness of my fingernail, which I've got here. Now, that's going to flux right out. I'll never see it. So I'm very happy with that. And I was moving kind of quick. I'm actually going to go one more time. I'm happy with that, but I didn't get it perfectly even. That's all right with me. So we're just going to go one more time here. Very quickly up to the top. I just want it just a little bit thicker. And there we go. I now have my glaze applied. I'm now going to open up the top of my hopper, and I'm going to pour the glaze back into the container. Now, before I can add my next glaze to the hopper, I have to clean the hopper. I'm going to kind of turn the camera here over, and you see I've got this bucket right here. All I'm going to do, this bucket, the 5-gallon bucket is filled with water. All I'm going to do is stick my gun down into the bucket and pull the trigger and kind of swish it around in there. And then I'm going to take a sponge and just kind of wipe the inside of that out. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing there on camera. And maybe spray a little bit of that water out of there. And there we go, I'm plenty clean. So that's all I do for my hopper. And now I'm going to go to my next glaze, which is SC Orange. So I've got it already prepared here. I'm going to drop it down into the hopper. And I'm going to just set it over there. And real quick here, I'm going to take and rinse my lid off. And now I'm going to spray the SC Orange onto the pot. Now this time when I do it, I'm going to come up and I'm going to be spraying down. Now if you think about it, when I spray down, I better move my camera back over so you can see the pot. When I spray down on this pot, I want you to think about the spray. As it comes out, it gets wider. So it's going to be thicker here and lighter down there, which is giving me, and by pointing it this way, I'm not going to end up with it in here, but my spray is going to go down like that, and it's going to give me a natural feathered effect. Now, I'm going to have to do a little more to naturally feather it, but I'm going to get my gun maybe 6 inches away. Sometimes I start with the gun off the pot, pull the trigger, move the pot in, and you can see it's running, and whoops, now I'm going to bring my gun way back like that. I brought the gun way back and I'm misting the pot. I'm going to come back in, hit it hard on top, come back and mist the pot. And I don't want any more glaze on that pot than that. That's just fine. I'm going to mist it a little bit more down. By holding the gun way back, you can't even see how far back I've got the gun. I'm just misting the pot. So now I've got my base glaze and my modifying glaze on the pot. So I need to switch my glazes again. So I'm going to open my hopper. I'm going to pour my glaze back into my little measuring cup. And I'm going to rinse my sprayer out in the bucket again. I just dropped the sprayer down into the bucket of water. Now, this water does not have to be perfectly clean to do this. It really does a pretty good job when it's not perfectly clean. I'm just going to wash that out. Usually I have the bucket down lower and it's a little easier to do. But I kind of raised it up to get it in the view of the camera. Spray again. Maybe spray a little bit of water out of that gun. And there we go. I'm plenty clean. So now I need my ash glaze. Which, let me make sure I got the right one. Yeah, this is Hannah's Fake Green Ash. And I'm going to pour it into my hopper. Just like that. And I'm going to get the lid onto my spray gun. Just like that. I don't have it on straight. There we go. Sometimes these are, there we go. And I'm going to move my camera back over to the pot so you can see the pot. Now this time I'm going to spray up into this area here. So I'm going to get a lot of ash in there. But what that's going to do is allow me to leave the rim reasonably black without glaze. And I'm going to get overspray kind of coming up on the pot. And I'm going to spray up in there, and then I'm going to bring the gun back again. I'm going to spray up in there and then bring the gun back. So here I am down like this. And here we go. I'm going to start off the pot, pull the trigger, move into the pot, and spray. Now that's pretty wet on there. I'm going to give it just a second to dry. I'm going to start off the pot, move in there again. And I want that very thick. All right. Now I'm going to come up in here and I'm going to back the gun way up. I'm backing way up and I'm allowing it to get on that SC Orange. Backing up further. I'm kind of just misting it now, and that's really kind of blending it down into the pot. All right, so now I've got my ash on there, and I've gotten the ash very thick up in here. It's really quite thick. So I'm going to empty my hopper again. Where did I put my here it is. I'm going to empty the ash back into the little cup, drop it in the bucket, put the lid in the bucket too, and now I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm just going to go over the rim of this pot and scrape it. Just getting the overspray off that rim because I really want that rim nice and black. So I'm kind of going like that. I'm even going to come back with my sponge. And I'm really going to just wipe that rim off and clean it up the best I can. Just kind of really doing the best I can to kind of clean it up. There we go. So I've now got my rim cleaned off. And I'm going to come back and hit myself with super black. So I need to finish cleaning off my gun. I'm back to my bucket over here. Spraying in there. Grabbing the sponge, wiping out the inside of the container in here. Spray in there again. Spray the water out of the gun. And now I've got a clean gun again, and I'm going to grab my super black and fill up the hopper. Now if you follow this method, the glazes in these cups are going to be plenty clean to put back into the buckets in the studio. Just be careful you don't cross-contaminate, and that's not an issue. So I'm going to put the lid back on. It's important to keep that lid on there. Sometimes they don't want to go on the way that I want them to go on. I'm struggling with that one. There we go. I'm going to move the camera back over to the pot. Now, again, the spray that comes out of this gun is a circle, and it gets wider when I'm out here. So I'm going to come close to the pot, and I'm going to hold the spray gun. I'm hoping you can see this. I'm going to hold the spray gun off to the side of the pot, and then I'm going to move it into the pot and try to get just that rim. Now there's going to be overspray, and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to start the gun here, get it spraying, and then I'm going to move into the pot. And so I'm spraying basically just on that rim, and I want to get that glaze fairly thick. I do want it to be fairly thick on there. And want it to look nice and wet on the side of the pot. And then I'm going to back my gun up and spin quickly and kind of get a little bit of overspray on there. So that's it. That's how I go about spraying glazes. I encourage you to give it a try. And if you're in the studio and you need some help, don't be afraid to ask, or if you're watching this online, leave a message. I'm also going to leave a link down below the video with some examples of finished pots so you can see some more spraying and what they look like. So thank you very much. I'm Dave Johansson, and this is Blossom Hill Crafts. Have a great day.